Here we are. Daf Lamed Daled, Amid Aleph, 34a as they say, Maseches Beitsa, and we have encountered an interesting halacha about a chicken that has been traumatized and physically abused, we'll call it. Whether it was willfully or not, we're not going to discuss. But we mentioned that even in the transportation of chickens, it can often happen that they get squished in, and we have no idea if the animal is injured or not injured. Hopefully, people are careful with these halachas, but that's half of our job, is to figure out bidi evid. If it's already happened, what do we do? So the Mishnah in Chulin seems to say that we have to give it 24 hours to make sure it's still alive. After 24 hours, then we can assume to some extent it didn't suffer internal damage. However, the Gemora says after 24 hours we're allowed to shecht it, we have to then check for all the various simanim of trephus, all the various signs of internal damage that may exist or may not exist. And normally we do check a lot of them, but Rashi says it's really just a chumrah because most animals are healthy. But here we have to check it. Mi'ikar adin, we'll have to check it. And the Gemora says, well, if we have a chicken that may have suffered a certain amount of damage, and we're going to check it because we're so worried about that, then what about checking it on Yom Tov? Would that be allowed on Yom Tov or not? Because on the one hand, we're going to check it anyways. We're not going to eat it without checking, and we're allowed to check it on Yom Tov. That's not a problem. The main problem is that, as the Gemora said before, if we do what's called tircha shelo l'tzorech, if we do some kind of activity that wasn't really for the sake of Yom Tov, it was for the sake of something else, then it's detracting from Yom Tov, and the rabbis forbade it. So therefore we have to focus all of our energies on Yom Tov and not something that detracts from Yom Tov or something that's even just not physically for Yom Tov. So if here we shecht it and it turns out to have a problem, we will have shechted it Shalol L'Tzorech Yom Tov. We will have done a malacha of shechita. We will have taken the life of this animal, as it were, without any good reason, because retroactively it turned out it was unhealthy. So Rabbi Yirmiyah wants to know: would we be allowed to do that? Would we have a qualm about doing that on Yom Tov, or would we be allowed? So what do you say, Sruli? Would we be allowed to do it? How would you answer Rabbi Yirmiyah if he was here? Would you tell him to leave the Beis Midrash because it's a silly question? Like sometimes they tell Rabbi Yirmiyah to leave the Beis Midrash with his silly questions?
I'll just say from the Mishnah, you're not allowed to, in case of the tiles, you're not supposed to heat it up.
To heat up a tile.
Correct.
And you say that answers the question?
It answers it because you're not allowed to. So you're not allowed to shecht this chicken from here, the malacha shelo l'tzorech.
So we would say, just like we're not allowed to heat up this tile and then find out later that there was something wrong with the tile, we don't want that to happen, so we don't let you even heat it up at all. So you're saying, here also we should say the same thing about the chicken. Don't check the chicken because it's very likely you'll find something wrong and then we'll be disappointed.
Correct.
Okay, would you agree with that, Shabbatai?
Yeah, even if you hold the other way, you wouldn't check this. If you hold it as a tikkun, if you hold it the tal as tikkun, you have tikkun a chicken, I mean, it's the same concept. You wouldn't harden a tal, right? You wouldn't heat up a tal. So
okay, how does that affect the way I look at the chicken?
With the chicken, it doesn't apply to the chicken.
So if I take that approach, what will I end up doing?
You definitely won't do the chicken.
Why not?
Because it's tikkun vessel.
You're not making a tikkun on
No,
the
that's what I'm
chicken.
saying. It doesn't apply.
If it doesn't apply, then how should I deal with the chicken? You just said it doesn't apply, so how should I deal with the chicken?
In the alternative way of looking at it, develop an internal injury, like the tile, might have to develop a crack.
Either the tile is analogous, or the tile is not analogous. Are you saying it's analogous or not analogous?
Analogous, according to the first version
Of
crack.
Rabbi Yochanan's explanation of the Mishnah. According to the first explanation that we have in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the Mishnah forbade you to heat up the tile because you may find something wrong with it. So then, according to that, we used the term yesterday, kal v'chomer. I think somebody else used this terminology, so I adopted it. Kal v'chomer, we won't let you check the chicken because, again, you may find something wrong with it, and then it turns out you did a malacha that was not necessary. Right? But if I have the other approach to the Mishnah, not like the first approach, I learned that Rabbi Yochanan said a different explanation of why I'm not allowed to heat up the tiles, like you said, because it's going to be a tikkun of the kli, it's going to make it hard and strong, and therefore I'm not allowing you to make that tikkun of the kli. But that's not at all analogous to the chicken. So what will I do with this case of the chicken then?
You just don't check it.
Why not?
Because you may come to find a problem.
That's if I take the first approach.
So it does. So I think you can use a second approach.
If I say the reason for forbidding the tile, the heating up of the tile, is because of the second approach that we have in the name of Rabbi Yochanan,
I'll get that.
then what will we do with the chicken?
According to that.
It's not. The truth is, it's not going to be according to that. It's according to the fact that I have a certain way of learning the tile, which makes this chicken not at all analogous.
Right.
Then the tile will not give me a way of dealing with the chicken. I have to find my own way of dealing with the chicken. So what will I do on my own if I'm just left up to my own?
If it's up to me, I'd eat the chicken.
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to say. Let's put it this way. If I have to learn from the tile, let's say the first approach,
Right.
I end up saying don't check the chicken, not because I really think that's a logical way to go. I wasn't sure, but I know that with the tile, that we don't let you heat up the tile, so kal v'chomer, we won't let you check the chicken. Good. But that means that without the tile telling me what to do, I wouldn't know what to do. So what would I do if I don't know what to do? And that's what I'll say with the second approach. The second approach, the tile doesn't help me at all, because the tile is for some completely different reason. Tikkun mana.
During Yerushalyim, it's not a problem. Right?
What?
If it's not Yom Tov, it's not a problem.
Okay, we're saying
It's straightforward.
to know what to do on Yom Tov, it won't help me to remember what we do with the tile, or what we don't let you do with the tile, because it's not analogous. If it's not the same reasoning, then I can't use it for an answer. So now I have to go back to my original approach. What's my original approach with the chicken? That I say, look, without the tile, I don't know what to do. That's where I am now. I'm at a point where I don't know what to do. So I'm asking you, if I have a case with the chicken and I don't know what to do, what do you think I should do?
You're talking about an injured chicken.
You're
talking about an injured
this kind we're talking about, yes.
I think that...
We don't know it's been injured, by the way. We do not know that it's been injured. No. It's the reasa. What's called Rashi. What the Gemora calls a reasa. Rashi uses the word reasa as well. Something has happened. There's been an event which occurred. It has suffered a trauma, which may have produced internal injuries, may not have produced internal injuries. Right? Let's say a child falls out of a window. You ever have a child fall out of I had a child who fell out of a window. I had a child who fell out of the window and lived to talk about it, Baruch Hashem.
I wanted to throw him out the window.
Well, I didn't have to throw him out of the window. He fell all by himself. I think both brothers were fighting in the window, and one may have pushed the other. That's the theory, but we can never prove that. So we just call it that the one fell out of the window. So many things could have happened, right? I took him to the hospital. All night long they were checking. They couldn't find anything wrong. Finally I took him home, and he grabbed his tuchus as I was putting him in the in the taxi, that's apparently where he fell. He fell on his tuchus. And he had a strong tuchus, so the only thing that happened was he had a bruised tuchus. Like some people, they have a bruised ego. And he had like a bruised tuchus. Okay, but he didn't have any other internal injuries, Baruch Hashem. The same boy, though, later on in life, wasn't happy to be without injuries, so he went ahead and he had other injuries, Baruch Hashem. No, Hashem. But the point is, when you have a trauma, you don't know what's going on the inside. You have to, today, we don't open up a child to look for that. We have other ways that, right? The MRIs and all these kind of CAT scans and X-rays, etc. But in those days, they didn't have it, so the only way to check on the chicken is to open them up. So that's going to only happen after the shechita. But till I shecht him and start to check him, what do I assume happened?
You wait 24 hours.
I waited 24 hours. So Rashi says, because I waited 24 hours, I know it did not have risu kevari. It did not have a dismemberment of the limbs. Okay. What about all the other 17 possible injuries, internal injuries?
It's possible.
Okay. So now what should I do? Should I not check it because I don't know what I'm going to find when I open it up? Or do I say, look, every animal starts out as a healthy animal. Now maybe something happened to, right, like we said about the mikveh. Mikveh started out as a full mikveh, right, and we don't know, right, so what do you assume?
At Khan, it was a healthy animal, so we presume it's still a healthy animal.
That would be the normal way of using a chazaka.
We've waited.
Okay, so if we don't bring the reisa into the chazaka, then I remember with the original chazaka. What's the original chazaka, Sruli? With this chicken, how was it born?
It was born okay.
So what's the chazaka with this chicken?
Healthy.
It should be healthy. The only thing is, I've had a reisa. A reisa means I've seen an event occur, either someone stepped on it or whatever, that would make me question whether it still we can still rely on that original chazaka.
Yeah.
Very likely it's lost its chazaka because it's changed its status to being unhealthy now.
Isn't it a change of chazaka then?
What?
It's not a chazaka anymore then.
Again, do I have enough evidence because of what I saw to change the chazaka? I think that's part of what the Gemora said, although we had trouble with one of the Rashis on that, but that because of what I've seen, will I now change the chazaka from the original chazaka of saying I assume it's healthy till proven otherwise, to saying, look, I normally would assume that, but I did see an event occur which is a traumatic event. It was a reisa, right? So maybe that would make me change the chazaka and say I can't just rely on the fact that it's been healthy till now. Yes, it's been healthy till now, Baruch Hashem. But from now on, I don't know if I can rely on that. So normally you say, okay, don't rely on it. Checked it, cut it open, and look for all the simonim of trephus. The problem is on Yom Tov, though, to get to the point where I can check it, I have to shecht it. That shechita might be a bad shechita, though. If I can't rely on the chazaka that it's healthy, maybe I'm not allowed to do that shechita. Because maybe I have to assume it's not healthy, that it's a bad, not a good shechita for Yom Tov. Right? The Torah doesn't just let me do shechita on Yom Tov. It lets me do ochel nefesh. If I'm going to do shechita for the sake of eating, then I'm allowed to do it. Right? But if this is not clearly for the sake of eating, because maybe something happened to it, so that should be a case where I say, okay, I don't know what happened, therefore I'm going to rely on the original chazaka to guide me. But that's what the Gemora is saying. Maybe we have to consider the reisa as pushing us in the direction of not relying on the original chazaka, and assuming just the opposite, that probably is something wrong in there. Therefore, I'm not allowed to shecht it. So that's why we said it's very handy if we can use the tile as an excuse, because then you see over there, even though nothing bad happened with the tile, but I still had to, for the sake of the holiness of Yom Tov, I had to suspect that something might be wrong.
The Gemara says it is beyond or law.
That's the question.
Yeah, so we don't know. Right?
No, we don't know.
Yeah.
That was his question. We don't know. Do we change the chazaka because of what we've seen as far as the Kedusha of Yom Tov being so holy, and I don't want to offend the Kedusha of Yom Tov, so I'll be more careful than maybe I would normally be, or not, or maybe I just have to treat it like normal. Normally we say, I don't know what happened on the inside, so therefore I can rely on the chazaka that it's still okay. But that's what we don't know. So I would say if we don't have the tile to tell us differently, then we would say I have no right to ignore the chazaka. The chazaka tells me it's healthy. And all the reyes it tells me is, it might have changed. Yes, it might have changed. I know something might have happened, it might have changed.
Is there a chazaka with the tile?
What?
Is there a chazaka with the tile?
Not necessarily.
You said up to this point the
There
tile...
might be a rove, like Rashi mentions the idea of rove helping. Is this not good for you? I could turn on the air conditioner just as well.
It's nice.
Okay, so I think there's a rove, and I think probably the majority of the tiles are okay. So it's not exactly a chazaka. Chazaka means this thing starts out being considered healthy, as it were, and that you have to be shown that it changed to say that it changed. But if you can't be demonstrated that it changed, you don't assume it changed. Here we're saying with the tile, we don't know what's happened inside. I would think the majority are okay, but maybe the minority, if that's the point. Do we consider the minority and therefore that guides us into being careful? Then we might want to do the same thing with the chicken. It might have the chazaka, but it has also reyes, so therefore maybe I have to be careful.
Another thing about that answer.
So what's the halacha?
The actual halacha, again, without looking it up in the Mishnah Berurah, which I think we should, so maybe we will. But it's funny because if you look at the question of Rabbi Yirmiyah, right? It says Mi mechaskinans reyasa b'yom tov o lo. Right at the word "o lo" is a dollar, which seems to be, but of course we don't paskan based on the exact positioning. But the positioning would seem to indicate it's going with the second way of looking at it. "O lo." Otherwise, he should have put his dollar right at the "michaskinan reyes b'yom tov." The sentence before that. He waited to put his dalid on the O lo, which is a bit ambiguous. That's why for sure you can't paskin based on the positioning of the dalid. But if a person wants to be, a bit venture into the unknown, I would say it looks like we go with the second way, lo, which would mean we don't assume that it's, and therefore we'd be allowed to shekel. Let me see. Let's see if we can look it up here. Should be okay. Let's see, Dalid is Tav Tzadi Ches. Yeah. See it? Ein Mishpat, right? There, it says, starts out with the Rambam, etc. Then When he gets to the Shulchan Aruch, it looks like it's Tav Tzadik Ches, Halacha Ches. So I have some Tav Tzadik, let's see, Ches, not Sif Ches. Okay, so here it says like this. Anybody wants to look in can come closer, but I'll try to read it in a way that everyone will understand just by enunciating if I can. Better. Okay, Oaf Shenidras Biraglaim. An oaf that was trampled by foot. Sounds like more than one foot. Raglaim. Yesh lachush shenisrasku evaruv. One could worry or should worry that its limbs have become crushed or something of that nature. L'chein tzarich shehia me'ez le'ez. Need to wait 24 hours. That we knew. Ubadika achar shchita. And you also need to check it after the shchita for the other 17 simanim atrefis. Just a second. Mutar lishcha b'yamta. You're allowed. So that's good. It seems like that's what I was reading, that he put his dalet on the O low, meaning we don't make a new chazaka based on the reisa. Let's see if it follows through here. Below Chashinan, we don't worry, Shema Yimtza Treifa, that maybe it'll be found to be treif. We're not worried. Afal Gav the Isyali Be Reusa. All the words in our sugar in this halacha, even though it did occur in it a reyasa, this kind of weird event which makes it look like it may have become injured. So that's all as far as the Shulchan Aruch is concerned. And there's no Ramah, so it seems like even the Ramah agrees. But very often the Mishnah Brura will add or subtract, and therefore it may not be the same story after we're finished with the Mishnah Brura. Let's see, Mem Vav.
So if they do find something wrong, they just discard.
Like any time, if you find a problem, then you can't eat it.
So they're obviously agreeing in the direction. It's not likely that you're going to find.
Again, we're not going with probability. It's more like, what would the Torah want you to do? And we're saying, if I'm allowed to rely on a chazaka, that's what guides me in my action. Rely on the status quo to make an assumption, do the following. It's guiding me in my actions, but not necessarily telling me how to predict the future. Let's see the Mishnah Brura on this then. Mem Vav. Sorry, Shehiyah Meis La'es. You have to wait 24 hours. Kadei Sheyetze Michashash Risu Givarim. In order that you should no longer have to worry about this crushing of the limbs. Sorry, Gamkein Badika Denahida Badavadai Lav Nisrasku Givarim. Right? Even though we know already that it hasn't, because we waited 24 hours, we didn't have the dismemberment problem. But Mikol Makom Shema Ira Reusa Be'ivarim Panimi. So that's the problem. You don't know that the other 17 problems whether any of them occurred. And of course, we're only talking after you waited 24 hours. Because if it happened on Yom Tov, you have to wait another 24 hours, and you can't even start to shecht it till after Yom Tov. Av shehu mechusar b'dika adayin. Even though when you come to shecht it, it hasn't been checked yet, so you don't really know what's happening. Lefi das haga yoredeya. So he's bringing a halacha in yoredeya, which makes sense. It's stemming from a halacha in chulin, which is a yoredeya question. Siman nun ches of hey de'ein anu baki'in b'bedikas kol evarim. We're not really experts on checking all the evarim. Lo mashkachas din zeh ledidan. We're not likely to come into this halacha because we don't even know how to check everything. Rama lo he'ir b'zeh shesamach al ma shekasar b'yordeya. Alright, so...
You're saying that everyone's an expert?
Hmm?
Shifting this particular chicken?
We're not experts.
That's a very funny thing.
What?
It's like teaching medicine and saying, I'm going to teach you how to do this, but none of us really know how to do this. It's such a strange approach. I'm going to teach you how to be a baki, but actually you never become a baki.
Well, I'm sure there are certain things that a doctor will say, we're not sure about this. Teach a person how to be a doctor, but I'm sure there's still areas in which you say, nobody's really sure about this or that or the other. And usually before they do a surgery, they will tell the patient or the family of the patient the likelihood of a certain outcome, but nobody knows for sure what's going to happen.
It's all evidence-based today. They will not do something unless it's evidence-based today.
Can you guarantee them success? Can you say if we do this surgery, we will for sure live? No. Well, in the end of the day, it's an opinion, it's an estimation, it's not really clearly defined.
This is an estimation?
In a sense, we're saying we hope it'll be okay, we're thinking it'll be okay. Halach allows you to assume that. Even though you're supposed to do a padika, you try to do as much as you can. It does have a chazaka of being kosher till now, and Rashi says, why? What is that based on? The ro behemus va'ofos kasheros, because the majority of animals are kosher. That's the basis for the chazaka itself. It's based on a robe. It's based on a majority.
Like the top.
Like the
top.
I suppose a majority are probably okay. So but no, there we say you're not allowed to. If you go with the first approach, we say you're not allowed to, despite the fact that there's a majority. But we're obviously going like the Gemora. The Gemora said we're not sure if that's the right interpretation of the tile. Maybe it's the second interpretation. And as far as it breaking, we're not really worried that it'll break. The only problem is the other problem. So the fact that till now it had a chazaka of being good, and that's based on a robe, we're allowed to rely on that. Even though there's a reis, even though something bad happened in front of us, so the chazaka might have changed, we don't rock the boat. Huadin, Suffolk Nikufa, Bechotes, even if it got pierced with a thorn, but maybe that pierced an internal organ, Kiagav, the Mutter, still checked it. Kol Shekain Hecha the Lake of Reis. Well, certainly there's nothing bad. Rakshi Yesh Makomo Shemtsuyos Trefos Harbe. Sometimes you're in an area where you tend to find a lot of trefos. That's still better than our situation. Our situation where it got trampled or something, that there's something that happened right in front of us to make us worry that we can't rely on the rove. Saying even in certain places, there are places where there's just a lot of trefos. So those kind of places, maybe we'd say don't shecht in those places because it may very well be treif. So if you're in an area where the majority of the area, there's a lot of animals that get shechted in that area that are found to be treif, is still allowed to rely on the majority of animals in the world in general. The fact that in your locality things seem to be different will not change the chazaka. It's still a chazaka that is kosher based on the majority of the world. Yesh cholkin, okay, here it is. There are those who argue. So far he explained the Shulchan Aruch, and it really is based on a Ramah elsewhere, so it seemed like everyone's agreeing you can check it, but now he's finally bringing, there are those who argue. Mr. Brewer brings those who argue. And the first one who argues seems to be different Rishonim, Amish big Rishonim, wow. Some very big guns. They say, Sovrim de ein lishchot b'makam de ikareus. This opinion says we do have to worry about the reis. It might have changed the chazaka, and even in a place where there's a majority that get found to be treif, you can't rely on the majority of the world. So it's the exact opposite position.
That's the next section.
This is paraphrasing the section. Just paraphrasing the section. Turn it on. Turn on the camera?
Camera's on, but I'm sorry, I'm fading a bit. Okay, maybe I'll try to look at this later. So here I has extra stuff written there, but so it seems like Me'ikar din we could be Mekel, but the Mishabur does bring some people who are Machmer, so I don't know, often we honor the Mishabur when he's Machmer, but I don't know if this would be a case like that, but hopefully we don't really shecht our chickens on Yom Tov anyways. There's a whole question why we don't do shechita on Yom Tov. I read once a whole account of why that is, but obviously we're allowed to. The Mishnah talks about it, the Gemora talks about it, the Shulchan Aruch talks about it, but practically speaking, you don't find people to shecht on Yom Tov. Even though it's supposedly much better tasting, much fresher. But maybe today that we do all our cooking in advance, it's not as necessary. Okay, shall we continue?
Yeah.
So we're going to the next section.
Yeah. Shall we read the Gemora to the Rashi or?
I prefer you to do the Rashi.
Sure.
That's true. Danach would be a
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. He brings. We went to the Mishnah. If someone, one person brings the fire, the achad maybe it's etzim, one brings the wood, the achad shofet kadera, and one places the pot. pot. Chad, maybe it's Mim.
Mine.
Sorry, Mayim. It's one brings water, puts water in the pot. Chad metin Torchan cooking. And what puts inside the pot, the tafel, the spices. So there's a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of things.
What does Magid do?
Makeis?
Yeah.
Sure.
Again, Makeis Kulan, and one stirs everything.
No, Chad Makeis.
Chayvim.
Kulan.
The Chad Makeis, one stirs. And all of them are Chayvim. All of them are Chayvim.
Now it's important, this kind of a Gemora, we're talking about, the Masechta is Yom Tov, right? We're learning about Yom Tov. How can I say Chayim? But if you look on the side, I don't know how your Gemora is set up, but mine has a little asterisk right after the word Tanya. How about you, Shurla? Do you have an asterisk?
Yeah, I actually do.
Good for you. You know what you're supposed to do with that asterisk?
Go to the one. Sorry, Sashas.
Oh, really?
Sorry, Sashas.
Do you have it, Shabbatai?
I've got the asterisk.
So look to the margin on the right.
Yeah, at the bottom.
No, right, to the right.
Yes.
Like to the right of Rashi.
Yes.
So something in the margin there is parallel to the asterisk.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I can hardly read it.
Oh.
Something to face the Shabbos?
It says Tosef and then there's an apostrophe over the pay.
Yes.
You know what it's standing for?
Is it Trofesta?
Tosefta.
Trofesta, sorry.
Which means what?
There's unwritten devices.
It's like the Mishnayos where they all start out as brises.
Yeah.
Anything we read in the Mishnah, before Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote it down as a Mishnah, was a brisa.
Yeah.
He took it and he polished it up, so to speak, and put it in order called Mishnayos, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But things that he left out, sometimes it just remained out entirely, and we only find them in the Gemora. But sometimes they ended up in a Tosefta, which means just like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi took some of the brises and he did what? He created a Mishnayos, which means he fixed them up and he put them in a special order called Mishnayos. So some of his Talmidim did the same thing. Rav Oshia was one of them. Okay? So Rav Oshia, just like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi took some brises and fixed them up and put them in an order called Mishnayos, Rav Oshia, and there was one other Rav, I can't remember his name right now, maybe Ravina? I don't think so. But someone in Rav Oshia did the same thing with the extra brises that were left out. And obviously not all of them, because many of them don't appear neither in a Mishnah nor in a brisa, a Tosefta, but rather just in the Gemora as a brisa. They kept, some of them in, some of them out. What they brought in was called Tosefta, and it usually follows the pattern of the Mishnayos. The same way the Mishnayos follow a certain order, the Tosefta follows a certain order. It has the name of the parak, the name of whatever, so it can follow very similarly, but what does it say here? Tosefta of what? Shabbos, which means this answers our other question. How can we say Chayiv? I thought we were talking about Yom Tov, when to cook a pot of food on the fire is not Chayiv on Yom Tov, it's a mitzvah. How can it say all these people are Chayim?
You can't cook on Shabbos anyway.
Because it's talking about Shabbos, right? So even though we're learning about this in Masechtas Beitsa, which is sometimes called Masechtas Yom Tov, and we've been learning about Yom Tov up till now, almost everything we've been dealing with is Yom Tov, but some of the things we've been dealing with have also been about Shabbos. Here we have a Beitsa about Shabbos. Okay. So what's it saying in your own words?
So he's talking about a number of malachas that are being done here.
What malachas are being done?
To bring a fire, to put a pot in it, to put tahini, to stir it, to water. Some of them might not be considered malachas. Just can't imagine putting spices in is considered malacha. I guess it could be.
If they can cook, if they can be... What's the definition of cooking, by the way? How do I know if I'm cooking something or not? What would you say, Surly?
Heating. Heat.
If I heat up a piece of metal, is that called I cooked it? It has to be something that...
Edible.
Maybe. I think if you look at the beginning of the Mishnah Brura, in Hilchos Bishul, you know where to find that in Hilchos Bishul?
Gemora.
It's in Chelik Gimel, which Siman of Shulchan Aruch, you know.
Where is Gemora?
Shin Yud Ches. Siach. Right? Because Siach means speech, talking. Right? Because what do you want to talk about? Hilchos Bishul. It's in Shin Yud Ches. And the next one, Shin Yud Tes, is Hilchos Boreh. Two very important simanim for Shabbos. Shin Yud Ches and Shin Yud Tes. Okay? Let's give a look. I just wanted to show you something interesting. He quotes the Rambam. Sometimes heating up metal is bishul. So when do we know if we're doing bishul or not? What's called bishul? What's the definition of bishul? So that's one of the things we don't realize, that the Mishnah Brura sometimes gives nice introductions to things that are helpful.
Isn't heating up metal Nafshi
You think Machshir Ochel Nefesh? That's on Yom Tov.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about Shabbos here.
This is after the Shabbos, right? So I'm just trying to give you an idea that not everything we would think is bishul is bishul. Sometimes just heating up something is not bishul, right? Like for example, it says "Ein bishul achar bishul." If you already cook something, to cook it again, it's not considered cooking, right? But there's bishul achar aviyah. There's different kinds of bishul. Listen to what he says over here. Echad hamavashal es hamaychal, both if you cook food, o es hasamamonim, or spices, o hamachamim es hamayim, or if you heat up water. And what's the chiddush of that? Because water, even without being heated, is edible. So what did you do? You didn't do anything to the water, really. It's as edible before you cooked it as after you cooked it. That should be the definition of bishul, by the way. What should be the definition of bishul? Applying heat to a substance
Change its nature.
that then changes it to do what? To be better. To be a tikkun in that. So normally, you put a food in heat, it cooks it, it makes it more edible. It's a tikkun. Right?
It's a complete
No. It's because every malacha that we talk about, the 39 malachas, to make it better. Because where do we learn from? The Mishkan, where each thing, they took a certain substance and they made it fixed up for the ohel, for the Mishkan. That's what the whole idea was. So that's where we learn that every malacha is a positive tikkun to the substance. Not because of tikkun mana. Turns out tikkun mana also is very often only the midrabanan, right? Making the kli is sometimes only midrabanan. But all these kind of tikkunim are taking a substance and doing one of these major acts that they did for the Mishkan to the substance, and it makes it better. That's a malacha. Huadin, either chalav or chalav, I'm not sure, probably chalav, same as water, that it's edible without heating it, but, so what did you do when you heated it up? Nothing really. But still, it's chayiv. Mikol makam chayiv, kiven de mishtabeach al yidei bishul. That's the point. When you take water, let's say, and you heat it up, would you say the water is a better water because you heated it? It's edible both ways, but it's better. People prefer to drink it when it's warm with tea, etc., etc. So it's considered to have improved the quality of the water by heating it up, or improve the quality of the milk by heating it up. Echad ha'ofes pas, also when you cook bread, akol inyan echad, it's all the same. It's all bishul. Hamatich echad mimine matechos. If you melt metal, so heating it up not, but melting metal, right? Kolshu, even a tiny bit, or mechamem esamatchis ad she ta'aseh gachelis, or you heat it up to the point where it becomes like a burning coal. Again, if you just heat up the metal, did you improve the metal? Not really. So that heating is not called bishul. But if you apply heat to a substance and you make it better, that's called bishul.
Bishul is making something,
improving the quality of something by means of heating it up. That's what he's saying. So normally when we take a piece of metal, that's why the truth of the matter is, Rashi says, and when you take the, maybe that's why, when you take the tile and you heat it up, according to the second shot of Rabbi Yochanan, you made it into a kli because you hardened it up. You improved it, you made it stronger. So I would say that's also bishul.
Magis means stir, right?
Megis, yes. Alright, so I just wanted to show you that he even talks about the idea of heating up metals, etc. He calls it a tolda of Nafshi. Tolda. Right? And he said, because really, by heating it up, you soften it up, and that makes it fitting to do other things to it, right? Once metal is softer, you can shape it, you can do things to it. That's considered an improvement then. Alright, anyhow, I won't go into all of it, because, Hilchos Bishul is but maybe we'll have to look at it again to figure out what's going on over here. So, again, what is this Beitsa telling us that we wouldn't have known on our own? What do you think, Sruli?
Out of this whole bit.
Any one of these actions is chayiv.
Yes.
So let's go through each one and see does that make sense. He brought the eitzim. What does that mean? He brought the eitzim. Just bring it in. That makes it chayiv.
Where he's bringing it in from.
He brings it in from the backyard. Let's say.
Should be patur.
Should be patur because not carrying. What is he doing?
He's gathering it.
But gathering. There was a malach of gathering, but okay, let's just say he brings in pieces of wood, but doesn't really gather it into a pile, right? So he puts it on. Let's say he puts it on the fire. Maybe that's what it's talking about. He brings the wood to put on the fire. So we're really saying it's someone who burned wood.
No, you cannot stack wood.
Can't what?
You cannot stack wood. We just read that.
The ohel, creating an ohel.
No, we just read that recently.
We were talking about the way you make a fire is you should make sure to not build it up from the bottom up because it's making an ohel.
Sibari.
Wow. Sibari, I remember that. Where did that come in?
Yeah.
Previous page. No,
No,
that was a different. That was Midrabanan. We're worried about how it looked. And not everybody agreed even. I think Rabbi Shimon argued. So that because it looked like you're preparing for later by making it piles.
Yeah.
It's not because it's malacha. How about here malacha? You did a malacha here. Chayavin, kulam chayavin means malacha. Okay, so that maybe it means he put the wood on the fire. I don't know. It doesn't say that, but maybe that's what it means. And then shofet as a kedera means what?
Shofet as a
This is
kedera.
the pot.
Place the pot on top of an already burning fire. That's what it must be talking about, right? So the first guy put the wood and created the fire, or increased the fire. Second person came in and put the pot on the fire, so that even though he didn't create the fire, but he just put it down on top of a fire. That's also called bishul, I guess, if it gets to a certain
So
point.
it's a funny order here because it says the first one he brings the fire,
Yeah.
and he says the next one brings the wood.
Brings the fire, brings the wood?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then he
Brings the
says the
fire.
next one puts the pot on, right?
So maybe they used to have like a small little cup with fire. Let's see, if you bring that in, but you don't make anything burn, maybe that's... So how did he bring the fire? He had it in a cup, he had a little piece of charcoal, burning charcoal in a cup, or he actually lit it.
Yeah, a torch. He brought the fire.
But then he just brought it in. That's a malacha, just holding it in his hand, or putting it down. What did he do?
He brings it. So
He brings it from where to where? What did he do?
What's the point?
Carried it. He carried it through the Rishus Rabim, or from the street into the house.
What's the point?
So he's carrying. You learn he's carrying. I don't know. Okay, obviously Rashi's going to have to fill in a lot of gaps over here. Let's continue. So then he put the pot on the kedera. Some guy who did that is chayiv. Echad mevi is hamayim. Now that's interesting. Does that mean the pot that he just put on the fire did not have anything in it? And now someone came and put water inside the pot?
It's cooking was the pot was empty. It didn't have any high.
So then why is that person chayiv who put the empty pot on the fire? Why do you say someone must have been something in there? Maybe that's what you mean. He put something in there, a minimal amount, but then the next person came in and put a much larger amount of water in.
So maybe it's a minor mean? Put some in the person put some in there?
Who? What?
In the case of maybe it's a minor.
Yeah, he came and brought the water. I assume he put it in the pot. No, you're right. Maybe some mine was one guy. Echad no saying the soichel. Oh, tavlin. No, that's tavlin. So the first person brought the water, put it in the pot. So he's considered to be cooking water, right?
Another person put spices in it.
Put spices in. Okay, that's also called cooking. That's what I wanted to tell you. That maybe he's improving the spices by you put spices in like a soup. It improves the soup, but maybe it also improves the spices.
His intention is to cook the spices, not just to put water in the pot.
It's cooking the spices.
Yes, the spices.
That's part of how you make a soup, is you cook the spice, then the flavor goes into the water, it creates like a soupy thing. Now he's just stirring, stirring. That's why they say it's very hard when you take a pot off the fire. If it's really hot like cholent, sometimes just by stirring it, you're cooking it. Sometimes just by stirring, you're increasing the cooking of something. It's a little bit like an idea of a microwave, that just by moving, when the molecules move, they cook. Sometimes just by moving hot pieces of food, they cook more.
You're bringing the hot food to the top. The top food's cold.
So stirring is like moving hot parts to cold parts. Maybe. Alright, all these people are chayiv. Okay, now the Gemora is going to ask a kasha I see out of the corner of my eye, because it says Vahatanya. Should we see the kasha first and then we'll see all the Rashis on it?
Yes.
Or should we first see the Rashi just to understand the first price?
Let's maybe just see the Rashis first.
What would you like to do, Shabbat?
That's fine.
Okay. So remember, we're at the part of the Gemara that says Vahatanya, and now we're going to try to see the Rashis on this first price to Sefta. Okay, so we're talking about, let's see. There's no Rashis on part of that, just Shofei says HaKodesh. Rashi all of a sudden talks about Shofei says HaKodesh. It means he's skipping out the person who brought the fire and the person who brought the wood. Somehow those people are more understandable. Not clear. Okay, and what? Rashi Shofei says HaKodesh.
The principle of calling the boiling fire. Yeshiva Kanis Al Ha'or. What does Kanis mean?
Empty. Right.
Empty.
Just put it empty on the fire. That's pretty strange. So why should he be chayiv? So Rashi didn't really answer our question. He just made it more clear that we have a question here. But that explains why it talks about someone who brings the pot and then the next person brought the water. Okay, now after the person who brought the water and brought the tavlin, we're talking about megis. Megis, Rashi says, is
Stirs.
right.
Nar b'kaf. Nar means what does nar mean?
It's like shake, but to tilt perhaps. To like make something move from one side to the other. Usually means to shake something out.
Shakarin Kumi Libra. It's a French word, right?
What?
Kumibra.
So what's he trying to describe with that French word?
It's an empty
No.
flame, right? No.
That was the previous Rashi.
No. To put the kaf is a spoon, right?
To do what?
Tilt the spoon.
To tilt or to move from one side to the other, right? In the air.
It's going to wash my face off.
It's with the word for youth.
What?
It's with the word for youth. The young person
Yeah.
comes from the
Because
shaking.
they're very volatile, they're shaky, so they're like they're shaking, they're going back and forth from one side to the other.
We had that word before when they shake something off the table.
Right. At the very beginning of the sector we talk about that if you have bones on the table, they're not air. It's like you tilting, there was like tilting the table, letting them fall down to the floor. So it could be to shake, to tilt, to, I think in this case, especially since I know what the word megis means, I'm going to fit it in as being moving it from one side to the other.
It's a Hebrew word.
Huh?
It's a Hebrew word.
What?
Megis.
I think so. As far as the usage, I'm not sure if it's very well used in modern Hebrew.
How would you say stir the pot in Hebrew?
I have to ask one of my children. I don't know. I know this word, but I'm not sure if it's just an ancient word and it's still used in modern Hebrew or not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who would say stir. I think there is a better word for it. I know they call, I think, scrambled eggs, Beitsa trufot. It's like you go like that. You beat the eggs till they're scrambled. Beitsa trufot, I think it's. Okay, I'm not sure. Can you close the door? Just reach behind you. Get up. All right, so all these cases are not so clear, especially putting an empty pot on the fire. Okay, stirring it, I understand a little bit better. Stirring things you can sort of keep it, at high velocity, cooking it sort of speeds up the cooking.
Shabbos, we're making cholents. You definitely wouldn't add water or stir it or add spices to any of it.
We sometimes want to add water. When we see it drying out, we want to add water. Yeah. Not that you can. There is a way of doing it. I think you take boiling water from a kettle, and you kind of, obviously you can't do it from the kettle, because that would make the kettle basari. But what you try to do is you try to get hot boiling water, and then I think if you take the cholent off the fire, but not called cooking it anymore. And I think you have to have one more thing that maybe it's already fully cooked as it is. It's already fully cooked. Not like adding more to cook more. Just you don't want to burn. You don't want to burn.
In our house, and I always say to my
Do what?
even in the
There's a way of doing it. No, there's a way. If you have a kettle with boiling water, I think you're allowed to take the cholent off, add the hot water from wherever you get the boiling water into another kli, and then you add it, and then you put it back on, I think. There is such a thing. I mean, it could be it's only in this kind of a situation we're worried about it burning.
so
Often.
you talk about kishani.
Well, the cholent is in a kli rishon. So unless you transfer the cholent to another pot, which people don't usually do, like so a lot of people have the crock pot or whatever. That's what we do our cholent in. So you're not going to transfer it to another pot necessarily. So I think it remains in the kli rishon, but for some reason the water is not considered to be cooking it. It's already fully cooked. It's just a matter you're not allowed to add food to any pot that's on the fire, so that's why you have to take it off in order to add. So I think you just have a number of factors that make it permissible. Plus, perhaps we're also worried that it will burn, so the Rabbanan might have made it forbidden. They don't, because they allow you to. They don't want your food to burn either. In any event, that's just what I remember, but you might have to ask a posik to make sure you're doing it the right way if you really have the question. Okay, so there's no real... Okay, it just says Kulan Chayavim, the next Rashi. There is what to say there. Rashi does have what to say there.
Kulan Chayavim, Chayev.
Now he goes through the list. Before he didn't really go through the list. Now he's going to go through the list. Why are they all Chayev? Maybe the guy who brought or who brings.
Was there hay in front of it?
What?
The guy that brings.
I think it's just identifying the person that we're talking about in the Beitsa. Just echad maybe is or there's no hay either, but we know it's talking about a guy who did bring it. It says echad this and echad that. It's like identifying different people in the process. So we know we're talking about a guy who did this particular thing. So now that's just the way the Beitsa referred to them. So now Rashi just taking the way the Beitsa referred to them, and hopefully he'll explain why. Why is that guy who just brought the fire considered to be doing an Isser D'Oraisa? Why is he Chayiv?
He's burning, right?
He's like making the gachelis, the coal, burn more, I think. Burn meaning, I think here means more than it was before. Maybe if it was like a smoldering...
Spread, right? Spread the coal.
No, to make it burn, from the word burning. Not ma'avir, from the word burn. I always said it's a very interesting word, because in Hebrew it's beis ayin reish, beer, like beer chametz. Burning, right? Destroying, means destroy, to burn. So it's very similar to the English word B-U-R-N, burn. Beis ayin reish, it's almost the same letters if you think about it. Burn baby, burn. Okay, so now, what's he saying? To be mavir means you're making it flame up, you're making it burn more. So let's say I have a gachelis that's already like a hot ember, like a hot ember. When I bring it, maybe the action of bringing it also makes it come in contact with more air. As I'm walking from one place to the other, the air that's coming into contact with that coal is going to make it flame up. It's like if you blow on a coal. You ever blow on a coal? You ever have like a cookout? You blow on the hot red thing, and suddenly, or like on Erev Pesach, when you're trying to burn your chametz, sometimes there's the flame gets very low, and he's like, how am I going to burn my hummus? There's no flame here. So then someone takes a cardboard and goes like this, fans the flame. You ever see that? And then all of a sudden, the flame sprouts up. So maybe that's what happens.
When you hit a barbecue and maybe in the negative, you see his flame,
Exactly. So that's, and they had, in the olden days, they had what's called a bellows. You ever see a bellows? You hold two handles and it has like almost like a cushion in the middle of air, and like that, it forces the air through the nozzle, comes out in a very hard stream of air onto the coals. The blacksmith used to use that to make a big hot fire for burning metal, for shaping metal. So maybe that's what Rashi's talking about. When you bring the coal, Rashi assumes it's not a real fire. You don't bring a flame, you bring a coal. As you're walking with the coal, maybe it makes it flame up a bit, because as you're walking, the air that you're walking by is coming in contact with the coal. You're making it flame up. Think that's what he means?
Maybe.
Here, that's what he says. That's what he says. Because Kishehu Molicha, when he is bringing it, he meets Labna. I think he means it starts to flame up.
Flames.
It gets like flames up. May Ruach Halicha, so from the actual wind that's created by his walking, right? As you walk, just like when you walk down the street, a little bit of air is like, it feels like it's blowing into your face just because you're walking through air. So when you bring a coal through air, it's like you're making the air go on that thing, and basically it's making it flame up. So that's according to Rashi why that guy's chayiv. Why is that guy chayiv? Because as he walks, he's making it flame up. That's the assumption, right? That's what the Beitsa assumed in saying that guy's chayiv. Now the next guy that we have to explain is what? It said maybe or echad maybe as a eitzim. So Rashi says maybe as a eitzim, the guy who brings the wood.
No.
He's maybe the eitzim lit ur. He's bringing it to the fire. Remember, or is light, but ur is fire. Right? We're talking about Avram Avinu being an ur kazdi. Ur kazma saying he was in the fiery furnace. Mishum Mavir. That guy is clearly Mavir. How's that guy Mavir? Because when we say he brings the wood, what we mean is he's bringing the wood to where? To the flame. So he puts it on top of the flame, so obviously he's chayiv for...
So all these things are basically cooking.
Well, except that cooking is one of the malachas, burning is a different malacha. Burning is a separate malacha. Creating a flame is a different malacha. And actually, if you think about it, because when you burn something, you're actually destroying it. Like we said, the word burn, leva'er, that's where we get the word beer chametz, destroying chametz. So it's like a destructive thing. The Kiddush is that it creates heat, so therefore you let somebody productive. Okay. Yeah, but you're right. It's very similar. Okay, so that both of these guys are chayiv. This one for causing the coal to flame up a bit. This one for starting to light the wood. So that's what it means. He brought the wood and he put it on top of the fire to start the fire. Next guy is what? Shofet.
Shofet Kedera. Did I read Mishum Ma'avir? I read it, right? Read Mishum Ma'avir, right?
Yes.
Okay, Shofet Kedera.
The guy who Shofet's Kedera means what?
The places the Kedera.
On top of the fire, right? On like the stove, on the top, right? Rashi says about that guy, what did he do? Because we said before, it's empty, right? It's an empty plot. How do we know it's empty? Because when it talked about the next guy putting the water, bringing the water, Rashi says, no, Rashi said this guy puts the
of it. What did he do?
That's what Rashi says. L'kamei, which means what? In front of us, a little bit later on in the Gemora, what?
In front of us. Before Shema of it, what he did.
Meaning, because Rashi already explained, the guy who puts the pot on the fire, what kind of pot did he put on the fire? Remember what Rashi explained before? Moshiva. What did Rashi say before? Anyone remember? Remember? Reikanis. That's why Rashi says, the Gemora is going to have to explain why this guy's high. Rashi says, certain things I can explain. This one I can't explain. We're going to need the Gemora to explain. Okay, weiter. The next guy is what? It's in our Beitsa, it says maybe the water, but Rashi says no seinas amayim. And even the guy who puts in the tavlin, the same, what? And the Magis guy, all these three guys, one who puts in the water, the one who puts in the spices, the one who stirs, are all going to be chayiv mishum levashel.
Cooking,
right? And sha'afu, that's an avolacha. It's one of the 39 melachas. I don't know why Rashi had to tell us that, but whatever. Okay. I thought we all knew that cooking was an avolacha, but okay, fine. Now, so then the Gemora is going to ask what? Let's go back to the Gemora now for a minute.
Tanya.
Which means?
From a Beitsa.
No, it makes it into a question, right? Vaha makes it into a question. But didn't we learn in the Beitsa? Acharon. Chayiv. Which means only the
the last one is
last guy who was stirring it. He's the last guy. Is the guy who stirred it, right? Yeah. Only he is chayiv. Beturim. All of the rest of them are patur. So that seems like a steer in the Beitsa, right? How could the first Beitsa say everyone's chayiv, and this one's saying no, they're all patur except for the last guy? So the Gemora says what?
It's not difficult to answer.
Right, we can answer that. Why? IT.
Holes. I don't know what the IT is. It's not IT?
Huh?
The IT?
IT he brings.
Yeah, this one brings fire.
The IT me'ikara. He brought the fire me'ikara at the very beginning. Ha! And the other one, the basov. One of them he brought the fire in the beginning. The other one he brought the fire at the end.
So who's he referring to here?
Well, let's see. If he brought fire at the beginning, we already explained, all these guys are chayiv. The guy who brought the fire, he was lighting the fire, right? He was bringing a coal, which is like creating a flame. And all the other guys were chayiv, right? So that must be going on the case of where they're all chayiv. What?
The person who brings it in the beginning. So
that the one who brought from the beginning will be the first Beitsa, which says they're all chayiv. And the one that says only the last guy is chayav when he brought the fire at the very end. So you think, what did everyone else do? They just sort of set up the scenario that if some guy will bring a flame, it'll all cook. Right? I set up the wood, you set up the pot, the other guy put something in the pot, but there's no fire yet. So if there's no fire, there's no malacha. Just put some wood. I put a pot. I put on top of what? On top of nothing. There's no fire.
I don't see the difference.
If there's no fire there,
Yeah.
and I put a pot on top, do I do anything?
No, because there's hot water tumbling, then you bring the fire, you're now cooking.
The person who brought the fire,
He's now cooking.
but the one who put the pot did not do it. Because when he put the pot, there was no fire yet.
Right.
That would be the second brisa. The second brisa says everyone's putter. It means because when everyone did whatever they did, there was no fire yet.
Oh, I see. Right.
And he brought the fire last, so that's what it means. The acharon is chayiv, because he brought the fire. And you could say either because when he was bringing the fire, like Rashi said, it makes it flame up, or he put it underneath the wood, and of course that's a malacha. He burned the wood, he heated up the pot, so he has a lot of averes maybe. But if it was the case of where the first guy did it, then they'd all be chayiv.
So, this is understandable.
Like you're going back to the first price.
They're all doing something.
They all did some kind of action which the Torah prohibits, so therefore we can understand how the Brises could say they're all chayiv. My Ka'avid, that's what Rashi explained before. We're going to ask this question eventually, what?
What's he doing?
What did he do? He didn't do anything. Because we're learning it's an empty pot. Why do we think it's empty? Because the next guy put in the water. And the next guy put in the spices. But till then there was nothing in the pot, we thought. So what did he do? Why would you say that's chayiv?
So both ways he's potted. Rather brought the pots, whether the fire was there before or the fire was there afterwards.
Yeah, we're asking on the first price. We're asking on the first price. The first price said all of them are chayiv, even the guy who put the pot. We're saying why? Why would that guy be chayiv? He just put an empty pot on top of a fire. It's nothing.
Okay. So Amar Rav Shimon ben Lakish. Here, Lakish says here the pot is new. Rasukin Mishum, what's it? Levon, the Ephim, the Uruba. So it's the same concept, it's ticking a vessel, right? The pot is new and we're busy like the
except there's a big difference which is interesting. He must be learning the second shot of Rafim, that you're making a kli.
Yeah.
And he must be learning that it's a deraisa, which is a chiddush. I didn't know it was deraisa.
Why do you say that?
What?
Is it deraisa?
It says kulam chayavim. Chayiv means chayiv either a chatas, if it was done b'shogeg, or kores, if it was done b'mezid, or skila, if he had warning with witnesses. So chayiv means, on some, it's definitely deraisa, but just depending on his intention, could be one type of chayiv or the other, but it definitely means deraisa. So we're saying, put an empty pot on, yes, but it strengthened the pot. And that strengthening is enough to make it asur midaraisa, which is interesting, because what's the real tikkun? Like makah b'patish, maybe you're doing the final step in strengthening it into making it into a kli. I think somebody says that actually. All right, we'll stop here.
What's this word,